Spoiler warning for the entirety of Final Fantasy XIV up to patch 7.5. So this is your chance to click off the video if you're not caught up. Okay, so I have had a theory for a long time about Halmarut, and I've just now decided to make a video about it. Mainly because I think the latest patch gave me some more things that I can play off of. So this is basically the thought I've had for a while. What if Halmarut is not actually evil? Or in the end we learn that she is not actually that bad of a person? Now, let me give my theories for me to theorize this. When we first saw Halmarut in 7.4, she never came across like other villains that we have seen. She is not legitimately crazy like Fandaniel. She is not snarky like Emmett. And she is not cold like Xenos. No, Halmarut comes off like she is actually terrified of the Warrior of Light. And honestly, I still think she is scared of us even after 7.5. She also comes off as more human than most of the past villains we have engaged with. In fact, she even asks Calyx to say his goodbyes to his friends, as well as offering Calyx an actual body. Honestly, those two offers alone, I think shows that she is more compassionate than most villains so far. So overall, my general impression of Halmarut from 7.4 is more positive than that of past Final Fantasy XIV villains. There was nothing about her personality that screamed main antagonist to me. Honestly, before 7.5, I was kind of playing with the idea that Halmarut was going to deceive the Warrior of Light into thinking that she was actually an ally, and she would carry around Calyx like he was just her stuffed toy, and then Calyx would just watch on, quietly and menacingly. Honestly, I'm kind of sad that didn't happen, but what we got in 7.5 wasn't disappointing at all. And it doesn't absolutely dissolve the idea that Halmarut might become a companion at some point. In patch 7.5, we learn about the solstice from Halmarut. It is a natural rejoining of the reflections that will kill every living being on both the source and the shards. Now this will happen no matter what we do according to Halmarut. So Halmarut's goal seems to be to rejoin all of the shards, which would result in most people dying, but would at least save some people. According to Halmarut, this is more preferable to the death of literally everyone. Now, of course, this is all coming from an unreliable source. The Warrior of Light, the Scions, and even us as an audience has no reason to fully believe what Halmarut says. She could be lying to us, of course, or at the very least, she's not telling us the full picture. We have no reason to trust her. In fact, we might even learn in the end that her current demeanor is all just a ruse. However, let's consider for a second that she is telling the truth, or at the very least telling the truth from her perspective, and from the information that she has currently. And we are to believe that she isn't deceiving everyone. Logically speaking, it does make sense to rejoin the shards in the scenario of facing the solstice with no other options. What 14 is essentially presenting us with right now is the trolley problem, and Halmarut is arguing that we should pull the lever to only kill one person. Rejoinings have been proven to kill numerous amounts of people. However, the people of the source always somehow find a way to endure on, and sometimes would even thrive soon afterwards. In this case, Halmarut likely believes that this is by far the best option for everyone. Sacrifice the lives of the many for a few, as opposed to the annihilation of everyone. If Halmarut is telling the truth here, it is clear that she on some level values life. If Fandaniel, for example, was in Halmarut's shoes right now, he would probably not even attempt to rejoin the shards. On second thought, that dude was legitimately insane, so I actually have no idea what he would do in this scenario. But anyway, the point is Halmarut does not give off completely evil vibes, especially compared to her companion, Calyx, which leads into my theory that at some point in the story, Halmarut will become an ally and actually side with the Warrior of Light. I think it is pretty clear the direction the story is going to take. The Warrior of Light is going on a quest to find an alternative solution to the solstice. A solution that would involve saving everyone on the source and the shards. Who knows? maybe we'll find that solution in Evercold or in a later expansion. But I think Halmarut would act as an antagonist for the base expansion of Evercold. But maybe towards the end we figure out a solution to the solstice that doesn't kill anyone. Then we present this new solution to Halmarut, she becomes convinced that we are right, and then decides to join our side to prevent the solstice through this new method, because this solution saves the most amount of lives. As I established earlier, she demonstrated that she values life to some extent. Plus, I think that this would be an interesting new direction they could take the story in. An Ascian that actually is on our side and fights for good. Even if she potentially killed a lot of people with Calyx, perhaps our Warrior of Light won't like her as a person, but will accept her help to combat the solstice at the very least. Sure, technically we also have Gaia, who is also an Ascian, and is on our side. But her situation is a bit different since she was reincarnated, and she formed a bond with us before recovering her lost memories. Also, there's a low chance Gaia will ever become MSQ relevant due to the fact that her story is locked behind the Eden raids. So a story about an Ascian turning sides to join our quest to save everybody could be fresh to a lot of players. I can honestly see this theory being possible. Don't want to discount the fact that Halmarut could be lying about any number of things. So take this theory with a grain of salt. I'm definitely not saying that this is going to happen. But if Halmarut does eventually become an ally, where does that leave Calyx? Well, I think everyone can agree that Calyx comes off as way more villainous than even Halmarut does. In fact, I see a lot of people theorize that Calyx is eventually going to backstab not only Halmarut, but the Winterers as a whole. And that is more than entirely plausible. In fact, it's probably likely. Calyx does give off the impression that he does not truly care about the mission of the Winterers. Instead, he cares way more about whatever he wants, like plundering the ether of every world to sustain the endless. Plus, at the end of patch 7.5, Calyx meets the Warrior of Light to give us information, telling us that he and Halmarut are going to the Fourth to observe another Winterer's plan. My only question is, did Calyx go behind Halmarut's back to give us this information, or did he have Halmarut's blessing to tell us this? I don't know, but potentially Calyx might already be backstabbing Halmarut, and maybe Calyx is luring us to the Fourth to stop Halmarut and this other Winterer. The Warrior of Light could be doing Calyx's bidding by just going to the Fourth and stopping this Winterer's plan. Later in the scene, Calyx specifically calls out that every Winterer has their own beliefs and that he finds them objectionable. So basically, the Winterers are not a very organized organization. Therefore, I am excited to see what different types of characters and beliefs the Winterers are composed of. So in the end, if Halmarut does decide to switch sides, I don't expect Calyx to join her, obviously. Even if my theory is wrong about Halmarut eventually joining us, I don't foresee her being our main villain for this Godless Realm arc. In fact, if she doesn't join us, I would imagine she would only have one, maybe two more expansions until she is gone for good. Now, Calyx, on the other hand, I expect him to stay a lot longer, perhaps even becoming the main antagonist for this arc. Almost like a Xenos type of character. Now, that is definitely subject to change, but I think that is our current trajectory in terms of like story and antagonists. Okay guys, so that's the end of the video. Tell me what you think. Do you think Halmarut will become an ally to the Warrior of Light? Or do you think she will stay an antagonist for the entirety of her story? This was just a theory that I mulled over for a while, ever since 7.4 actually. And what she told us in 7.5 kind of cemented this thought for me. You know, that Halmarut might not actually be evil as the story wants us to believe. Anyway, be sure to like and subscribe for future Final Fantasy XIV commentary, analysis, and discussion videos. This is not Argon, and I'll see you guys in the next video.